The question I was dealing with in my case study was the question of shared memories within young Muslims and the history of the Holocaust in Germany, which is a memorial project by Burak Yilmaz, who I'm going to introduce to you later. So there are several reference points of my case study, which I'm going to present to you before dealing with the core of the study, the memorial project called Young Muslims in Auschwitz. First of all, the initial position of the study can be described as a very complex position because the subject concerns so many levels of topics like the migration society in Germany, anti-Semitic developments within young Muslims in Germany, a so-called heritage in conflict, and memorial sites as witnesses of history, which means a collective memory in public space, which I all listed up here. The study deals mostly with the topic of anti-Semitism within German Muslim youngsters, and these youngsters grew up facing a so-called heritage in conflict due to differences between their socialization within a German educational setting and the memories of their families. This confrontational setting is caused by living in a migration society in Germany in which these two perspectives, the German educational setting and the family memories, can sometimes not be compatible with each other. It is important to say that the migration society in Germany can be described as a very heterogenic and can be just lumped together. The Muslims concerning the Arabic and Palestinian society, for example, faces reservations and prejudice towards Israelis because they blame them as perpetrators within the conflict between Israel and Palestine. This presence rises from their perspectives because it concerns built enemy stereotypes. The migrants of the third and fourth generation in Germany are handled by their family memory. Anti-Semitism among migrants is a present concern, and nowadays, anti-Semitism within the Muslim community in Germany can still be very present. For example, the anti-Semitism originating in the Middle East conflict is called Israel-related conflict, like I explained before. At this point, it's very important for me to say that a sensitive communication about the topic is really important, and I hope I'm able to express myself here in the right way. Burak Yilmaz tries to overcome the gap I explained before within this heritage in conflict by working in the field of remembrance culture and also in educational work to create an awareness towards the topic of anti-Semitism within the Muslim youngsters. He is trying to use educational work with cultural heritage to reflect on different narratives like the family or national memory. To do so, he is visiting the memorial site, or more the concentration camp in Auschwitz. And within the chosen project of Yilmaz, I wanted to find out if memorial sites like Auschwitz can break up these narratives, such as the German Holocaust commemorations and traditional anti-Semitism from families of origin. The case study also tried to illuminate if memorial tours encourage a dialogue about heritage and even more about a shared heritage. In this case, memorial sites belong to a materialized witness of history by creating a collective memory in public space. And this history gains presence and raises the question towards a responsibility of learning from the past for the present. In this way, cultural heritage can help youngsters with a migrant background to develop a transcultural identity. Thematicizing contradicting narratives on family or national memories becomes very important here because it helps the youngsters to build a sense of belonging. National memory or collective memory constructs a collective form of memory and deals with the memory processes and examines the memory of or in groups. These memories are often shared through institutions or corporations, for example, by sharing memorial signs, symbols, text, images, and so on. All these memories are shared within a national memory based on historical references who construct a certain self-image of a nation. And in this case study, the memorial site in Auschwitz acts as a form of national memory because it references to the shared memories within the Holocaust. In contrast to this stands the family memory. The family memories are being shared within families over many, many generations, and the descendants build up empathy towards the past of their relatives and therefore also adopt their perspectives on certain topics. Family memories based on transmitted personal narratives, which often experience an individual description in the transmission. In this case study, the family memory describes the perspectives the young migrants gain through their family history. Many families, for example, pass on their cultural values, and these values, even in the third or fourth generation, still contribute to expressing a cultural identity that differs from the one of the host country. The project Young Muslims in Auschwitz takes place in Duisburg. Moreover, especially the district of Duisburg-Marxloh, where the proportion of migrants count about 76%, and most of the citizens are descendants of guest workers from Turkey. Some of them are also, especially Kurds and Arabs, they experienced flight, expulsion, or even death, and the youngsters or the children of them, they grow up facing these family memories and identities of many young Muslims in Germany are maintained through these stereotypes which are forwarded to them by their friends and families. So this leads me to a proper introduction of Burak Yilmaz, who is the initiator of the memorial project Young Muslims in Auschwitz. He was born in 1989 and grew up in Duisburg-Marxloh himself. He studied German philology and linguistics in Bochum, graduated with a bachelor, and works in Duisburg as a pedagogue in schools and youth centers, as well as a conductor of a theater group called Die Blickwandler, which can be translated as view changing. He's a pedagogue in the Center for Commemorative Culture in Duisburg, and his focus mostly lays on the field of anti-Semitism, racism, and commemorative culture within a social setting to build multipliers through young Muslim migrants of the second, third, or fourth generation in Germany. He tries to create some kind of mediation and an exchange within these groups. Within the project, he tries to combine the occurrences during the National Socialism to the local history of Duisburg concerning the Jewish communities and the Holocaust. In this way, known places get a new semantic meaning for the youngsters, and history apparently becomes something tangible. To continue, I would like you to listen to Burak Yilmaz explaining in his words why he started the project Young Muslims in Auschwitz in 2012. This part of the interview was recorded in August 2020 during our workshop.
Camp Auschwitz with Muslim youngsters is so important. I would like to take you back to 2012. I was working in Germany, we say Jugendzentrum. It's some kind of youth club where youngsters can hang around in their free time after school or in the evening. I was working there, and I had discussions with male young Muslims about identity a lot. So we were talking about manhood. We were talking about different views on sexism or on equality. And within these conversations about manhood, there was always the part of what is our identity, and also the question, are we Germans, or better saying, who's allowed to be a German? I had one thing that really struck my mind. It was a Friday. I was working there, and youngsters from school, they came to the youth club and said, my school is planning to visit a former concentration camp, and they told us that we can't go with them because my teacher said, you are Turkish and Auschwitz has nothing to do with Turks. So it was very striking for me because I was like very confused. I couldn't believe it, first of all. And after a few hours, other youngsters came and they said that the same happened with them at their school because they wanted to visit this concentration camp and just deal with this kind of history and their perspective. And but they were excluded from their teachers. So that was really something that that struck my mind for like weeks, and I was like, okay, that can't happen in Germany. That we are talking about the Shoah, and we exclude youngsters from going there because the teachers thought that because they are Muslims, they can behave anti-Semitic in the concentration camp. So that was really one thing that yeah, where I was really shocked. And on the other hand, a lot of common things in these youth club was like using the word Jew as a swear word. So when someone was like, I don't know, like very mean or very very intriguing, they said, "Oh, du Jude," we say in Germany. So Jew was a common word to discriminate others, even if they're not Jewish or have nothing to do with Jews. So that was also another thing that I was dealing in my work, and so I started this program.
So what happened afterwards? While getting to know the project and what Burak Yilmaz intended to do, I found out that the described problem is mostly linked to a certain level of education. As you heard him say, there's a huge lack within the German curriculum in school and a huge failure of the way teachers deal with these certain topics during the lessons. While studying the history of anti-Semitism and the Holocaust in school, the topic is always treated like it is something that only happened in the past, while the present relevance of the topic is more majorly neglected and disregarded. The lessons about the Jewish community are mostly minimized to the Holocaust, disregarding today's Jewish culture in Germany, Europe, and all over the world. Learning about the history of the existing Jewish culture would help the youngsters to sympathize and to start feeling empathy with the Jewish community. In this way, it becomes clear that external education becomes an important role because the part of inner education in school fails in some points. To give you a conclusion, I again would like to remind you of the two different kind of narratives I explained in the beginning of my presentation, means the family and national memory that I found out differ a lot from each other and are also competing with each other in a way. The memory of the established family traditions is, like I said, creating a big gap together with the memories from the environment of the young Muslims, like the society or the school the young Muslims go to. And this named gap is also connected to the level of education and the level of traditional attitudes of their families, as well as social and structural problems. Further, the project makes clear to me that cultural heritage within Yilmaz's work becomes something tangible, and this means visiting a memorial site receives the function of transferring truth, revealing historical injustice, and also refuting anti-Semitic stereotypes. Within the project Young Muslims in Auschwitz, some kind of dialogue arises in which the youngsters shall understand history as a common heritage. And I think the approach of the project is a very good and interesting way to do so. For me, the multi-levels of perspectives towards the project was very interesting to me, why I chose to look further into Yilmaz's work. All in all, to conclude the project in one sentence, I can say that the project can be summed up as an educational advertising and also a successful way of prevention to create a shared heritage within the young migration society in Germany to gain an empathetic understanding and prevention of anti-Semitism with the young generation of migrants. So this was it. Thank you all for listening, and I hope you enjoyed.